Hey everybody, Eric here from VISIONQUEST G6 with our Night Ranger bump helmet adapter specifically for the DNT Hydra. It's a nice piece. This is a 640 unit. Great optics. So I'm going to quickly go over how to install our adapter onto your DNT Hydra. Know that there are just a couple pieces that you need for this. A bump helmet with an NVG mount. So NVG or a Wilcox mount is what they call that. And then there's an intermediate piece for our adapters. There's an intermediate piece. It's called a Bino-Bridge. This is just a portion of it. It has another wing just like this on this side. And then there's actually two arms that come down off of this. But this is all that we use of that Bino-Bridge to mount our adapters to an NVG mount or a Wilcox mount. Okay, so typically with our adapters on all of the other mounts or all the other scanners, the mount goes on from the back side, but this is a unique install where it goes on the front. So the first thing you want to do is take cap off and slide your adapter on. Now adapter, it's flexible. It's ABS material. It's actually ABS plus. Is very flexible and durable, but you don't need to stress it any more than that. You can spread it open to get it on the unit. And again, we're going on the front, not the back where your eyepiece is, your EyeCup. And that just slides on nice and easy. In fact, it clears almost everything. When you're sliding it on, you want to make sure you go around your USB cap so you're not dragging against that, but just get it over top that and it all fits real nice. Everything lines up. The key to getting everything to line up and to making it easier on yourself is to first install the bottom screw. So you get a hardware kit like this with it for a DNT. You get 4 screws. You get your larger screw for the bottom, and then you get 2. You get 2 smaller screws. These are 440 screws. You get 2 3/4 inch and 1/2 inch shorter screw, and I'll show you the difference and where they go. First, I am going to let's see what we want to do first. Let's go ahead and put the 2 side screws in. Oh no! First screw is your bottom screw. With all of our mounts, to get everything else to line up where you want it, the first screw that you install is your bottom screw. In this case, we're going to install that bottom screw. You can use a standard number 2 screwdriver for that. You can tighten that down. And that right there, once you do that first, everything else lines up where it should be pretty much. Next, we're going to put in our 2 side screws, 2 3/4 inch long, number 4 screws. And that requires a number 1. A number 1 Phillips drive screwdriver to tighten those screws. And notice there's a gap in here right now. And unique to the DNT adapter, when you get this all the way installed, it's okay to have somewhat of a gap remaining when you're done. So you just want to squeeze that together to get the holes to line up a little bit better. Just squeeze the 2 pieces, the 2 halves, the bottom and the top half together to help that get aligned. But then once you get it, your screws just go in. And you don't need to do anything more than just get them down to where they're snug, where that gap just starts to go away, and that's all you need to do. You don't need to over tighten it. You don't need to close that gap down to nothing. You just get it down to where you can see it's starting to close that gap, and that's it. Don't overstress the plastic. Don't overstress the adapter. And that's all you need. I'm going to leave that gap, you know, almost a fingernail thickness through there, and that's it. You're mounted. That's as much as you need to do, and it's secure. It's not going anywhere. Now the third screw is this shorter 1/2 inch, number 4, and that goes in the top of this arm. And you don't need to do anything more. Hopefully you never have to do anything with that screw, but I'm going to install that, and I typically do install that on our mounts. But all that is there for is it's an anti-rotation, or it's a stop for the rotation of the adapter on a Bino-Bridge. This is a Bino-Bridge. This mounts to an NVG mount or a Wilcox mount. It slides in here and locks in place, and then you just the release button up front there, and you just take it off. So this is one of the keys to our adapters and getting them mounted on a helmet. So we want to take that Bino-Bridge and use the factory screw, and it just goes, let me do this a little bit different. That just goes on there like that. Get that started. The screw goes in the front. And the nut goes in the back side. There's 2 different sides to that nut. One side has a nut shape, and then the back side has a round shape. You want to put that nut shape down inside the hole on the back side of that bridge. Push that in the hole. And then you can use a number 3mm wrench and turn that screw down. Or in my case, I've got a tool. And you do have to tighten that screw pretty snug. You don't want this rotating on your helmet or in that NVG mount. But once you get it, it should be nice and snug. You don't need to kill it. Just get it nice and snug. And then that screw down inside there is for anti-rotation. If when you're wearing your helmet, it feels like your mount and your scanner rotate too far, you can back that off a little bit with that screw. But typically I have them just about flush almost all the time. And then let's put your cap back on. And that cap works basically in any direction. It snaps all the way open, except for obviously where this part of the mount or this part of the scanner is. But it works up there. It works on the bottom side. Get it out of the way, and that all works really well. And this mounts to your NVG mount on your helmet via that dovetail right there. It just slides right in, and you want to hear that click. That's a really nice click. Sometimes they don't click, they don't snap in quite that nice. Well, the problem is these Bino-Bridges, sometimes that pocket isn't deep enough. That web is too thick, so we have to machine that down just a little bit. I don't machine them down because different people have different mounts, but if you get your Bino-Bridge and you put it in your NVG and it doesn't snap in place nice like that, you might have to machine with a Dremel tool that opening just a little bit further out to narrow, to thin that web right there, so that there's room for that tooth to fall down inside there and catch that. And there, you're done. So I just wanted to go over the basics with that, and then from there, there's several different mounts or several different adjustments you can make on your mount. One is the 2 buttons here slide this front to back. This knob rotates and changes the pitch angle of that NVG, which obviously changes the way your scanner lines up with your eye. There's another adjustment on top here. Throw that arm over, and then you can slide the whole mount up and down on your helmet. I typically run that almost all the way to the top. And you really don't know how high to have that until you get it on your head. Once you get it on your head, get that up here. Rotate your scanner up and out of the way. Be careful that you don't drop your scanner on the workbench or, somewhere inside your truck. But get that. I run my snap or my strap pretty snug, pretty tight, and this is a large helmet, and this fits me good. And I know when I get my NVG and I get my adapter for my thermal where I want it, it is almost at the very edge of my helmet. I don't know if you can see it right there, but my scanner is almost right at the edge of my helmet. That's where mine almost always typically end up. Whether you slide it up or down is up to you, but I typically have mine in the upper portion of that slide, and then you're just going to have to play with the pivot and the rotation left to right a little bit with the Bino-Bridge. That's what that gives us, is the adjustability to pivot that left and right to get that to line up perfectly for you. So that's really all I wanted to go over. Two things that let's talk about again. The last, or the first details of the whole thing. First screw that you install is the bottom screw. Then install your two side screws. And when you tighten your two side screws, you do not need to over tighten them. Just get them to where that gap is just starting to move. You don't need to close that gap up all the way and potentially have a problem with overstressing your adapter. And once you get those two screws installed, just down to where they touch the top of that, and your gap starts to close up, that's all you need. You can still run your USB connector or USB cable if you want to use that port. And and that's all there is to it. So there you go. There is a DNT Hydra in our Night Ranger adapter, bump helmet adapter. If you have any questions, send me an email. But thanks for watching, and I hope you have some good success with your Night Ranger bump helmet adapter. Thanks for watching.